Battery chargers may not seem like the most exciting thing to watch a video on, but trust me, this one's different and has a lot of neat features to geek out on. ISDT is an established brand in the hobby charger market. They have historically been focused more in the RC market, but with this C4 in front of me, is more targeted towards the common battery sizes such as AAA, AA, and 18650s. This is my first formal charger review, so let me know in the comments what you think and what you'd like to see in future charger reviews. Thanks to Banggood for sending this to me to take a look at. Here is the charger itself, and it's a fairly average size. It's got a big LCD screen here at the top, and then you've got the battery bay, which I'll talk more about here in a minute. It's made of white plastic. On the backside here, you've got a mini USB plug for flashing the firmware. You've got a standard USB plug for charging other devices out, such as a cell phone or power bank. You've got your fan exhaust, and you've got your DC power in. On the bottom, it does come with little rubber feet, and you've got a vent here for sucking air in. More about this screen here, it is a 2.4-inch IPS display, which means it has a really wide viewing angle in quite a few colors. It's not a touch screen itself here, but you do have controls on the left and right hand side here, up, down, and select. So a little bit about the battery contacts here. This doesn't use a standard spring connector like mini chargers do. Compared with other battery chargers like I have, like the Nikkor and the X-Star VC4 that I've reviewed earlier, this is a much less flexible design. I'll go so far as to even say it's very picky. So let me demonstrate here. 18650 cells that are any longer than 650 millimeters just won't fit. So here is a Sony VTC6. This is a flat top. This is unprotected cell. It fits just fine. This is an LG HG2 flat top unprotected cell. It fits just fine. Here's a Samsung 30Q unprotected button top. It's tight, but fits just fine. Here's a Nikkor battery. It is button top and protected. It won't fit, it's too long. Here is a Panasonic NCR 18650B. It is a button top and protected cell. Won't fit, too tall. Pretty much any protected 18650 battery is a no-go. I didn't have any trouble with a Keep Power 14500s, which I don't have in front of me, fitting in the AA slots. Here is an in loop. It fits just fine. Ikialata AA's and the Duracell AA rechargeables fit just fine. AAA's fit here in these middle cells like this, and standard batteries I had, nickel metal hydrides, fit just fine. So while this charger takes a decent number of cells, it's limited. And it always doesn't take very many of them at a time. You can only charge 2 18650s or 2 AAA's. It will do 4 AA's at one time. And it will only do 1 26650. So here is the wall charger that it comes with. It is unbranded. Its input is 120 to 240 volts, 50 to 60 hertz. Its output is listed as 12 volts at 2.5 amps. And you can see here it is a Euro plug. That's why it came with this adapter outside the box that Banggood included. Seems to work just fine. It's a tight connection, but not the tightest connection. And it is ungrounded. The charger itself is capable of 12 or 24 volt input, so it would work for an automotive source as well. In all modes, when this charger is doing its things, you get a lot of metrics on the screen. You get the milliamp hours that have been put in or discharged from each cell, time it's taken, the current voltage, the requested charge rate, the resistance of the cell, and the temperature. Each bay has its own metrics too. You can cycle between them. Each bay has its own temperature probe as well, and I believe it's in the positive end up here. So it might take a little bit of time for heat to radiate off the battery before the sensor detects that it's hot. It also plots a graph, as you can see here, and as I go through each mode I'll show graphs that I have. The C4 is compatible with a wide variety of battery chemistries, including nickel metal hydride, nickel cadmium, nickel zinc, in loops, lithium ion, lithium HV, and lithium iron phosphate. There are several made modes of this charger. The first one is charge, which is what we're seeing here. This is the default mode, and it's probably what you'll use the most. it automatically detects the chemistry of the cell and sets the charge rate for 1 amp by default. These are configurable settings that you can change in the UI of the charger itself. So the other thing you can do is come in here and do different modes. So I hit charge here and I can go down to discharge and I can tell the rate again that I want. I can go up, go down. If I want to just discharge at 0.5 amp, and then I can hit start. So this is discharging my in loop here. And it does exactly what the name describes. It discharges the cell in the slot at the rate you choose. Depending on the chemistry of the cell, the charger will charge it down to 0.9 volts for nickel metal hydride, 1.2 volts for nickel metal zinc, 3.1 volts for lithium ion, 3.3 for lithium HV, 2.9 volts for lithium iron phosphate, and 0.9 volts for in loop. Why it separates in loop from nickel metal hydride is in loops can charge it a little bit faster, so in the charge setting you have that ability to change. However, it can't detect and tell the difference between nickel metal hydride. Personally, I've just been leaving it in the same mode. So the next mode I want to talk about was store. So if I go down here and click storage and I click OK, it's automatically detected this Samsung 30Q as a lithium ion battery. This optimizes the storage for each type of chemistry. This is particularly useful for lithium batteries who are the happiest when they're not 100%, when they're going to be stored for a few months. What I've read online is between 50 and 80% is where they're usually happiest. I tested an 18650 earlier and it stopped charging at 3.7 volts. Depending on the chemistry of your lithium batteries, it could be between 3.8 or 3.2 volts. And storage mode will automatically charge or discharge the cell to get it to that optimal voltage. This option is only available for lithium-based batteries. And you can see here in my example, my cell is fairly full, so it's discharging, and it's taken already 17 milliamp hours out of the cell. And it would continue this way, and when it's done, it will show a little flag over here. So the next mode I wanted to show you was the cycle mode. This is particularly useful for the nickel metal hydrides. You can do it for the other modes, however, nickel metal hydride, nickel cadmium is where you're going to use it the most. You can tell it how many cycles you want it to do and what rate. But when you start this, it will charge the cell up and then discharge, charge and discharge up to 99 times. Some batteries do have memory effects, and this is designed to minimize those memory effects. The next mode I want to talk to you about was analyze. And this also detects chemistry and gives you the rate of speed like all the others. But what's different about this one, it will charge the cell up to 100% at the rate you choose, and then fully discharge the cell, and then charge it up again to measure the amount of capacity it has. The last one I'm going to talk about was activation. This is used to activate a cell where the voltage has fallen below specs, or on protected lithium batteries where the protection circuit has kicked in. It uses a small amount of current to wake up the battery prior to charging, and caution should be used in this mode for batteries that are very discharged. You can't save them all, and this can be a little bit dangerous. Here's the settings, and I just got to that by holding that select button and get into the profile itself. It gives you the serial number, the hardware version, everything like that. You can long press again, get into factory settings, get into the language, change the volume, change the backlight, capacity limit, all these things. Auto charge timer, cycle display, all these things. It's cool that you can do all that. The UI, I think, is pretty easy to understand on this charger. It's pretty self-explanatory with up and down arrows and select. By default, this charger goes into charging mode and auto detect at 1 amp, but you can go configure that in those settings as I showed. If you want to change the mode of a cell while it's in the charger, you need to take out the cell and insert it again or reboot the charger quick. As I was showing earlier, this device does have the ability to charge another device via USB. What's a little strange is that it prioritizes the USB port over the batteries that you're charging. It's just something to be aware of. ISDT lists the USB port is rated for 2.1 amps at 5 volts for USB charging. I have some Forfire 14500s that this charger doesn't seem to like. I can't tell if it's a bad battery or something else. I know they're not great batteries, but they're not awful either. My other chargers, like the X-Star VC4, historically I've thought they're fine. You can charge them without a problem. However, this charger stops charging them around 75% and then acts like there's nothing in the bay. You don't get a warning or anything like that. One thing this charger does do is it gives you a very apparent note when you do have the cell in backwards or reverse polarity. So let me demonstrate that quick. You can see here it's alert, it's very red, it tells you obviously there's something wrong. My charging analyzer setup enables me to graph the curves, isn't friendly with this charger. The charger is just too smart for it, and the graphs that I've gotten from it are not accurate to what the charger is doing itself. So I've relied on the charger graphs that it produces itself. One note I will say about those that I'm showing here is they do scale over time. So if your graph may look full in just a few minutes on the screen, but if it takes 4 hours to do your charge or your cycle or whatever, it will cycle down and compress that data. One thing I wanted to note was the noise of this charger. I've got my microphone pointed down at the charger here, and it is charging 2 cells at near 3 amps apiece, and you can hear that charger fan running pretty hard. It's just something that I wish this charger maybe was a little bit bigger and they could use a slower speed fan to move the same amount of air. This isn't something I want to charge and maybe try and sleep in the same room. Not that I recommend that anyways, for just general safety. The fan cycles on and off. I'm not sure if it's temperature based or more just the charging profile you're based. I've charged this in fairly cool rooms and the fan still comes on. I mean, it's listing both cells here at 23C and 25C, so that's not very warm, but that fan still comes on. This charger, like I mentioned before, has micro USB here, and that's used to update the firmware. When my unit arrived, I checked the firmware that it came with and found there was a firmware update available on ISDT's website. I was able to download the firmware, which came with a Windows-only flashing program, and I was able to use AC power, like I am here, with nothing in the bays, plugged in the cable. My computer detected it, and I was able to click start and flash the charger. The charger itself rebooted into bootloader mode, transferred the file, and rebooted. I do wish the log notes were a bit more detailed on what's changed between firmware notices. I didn't notice a ton of differences, but there still seems to be bugs in the firmware. One of the firmware bugs I've encountered is sometimes when I have a battery charging already and I go to insert another one, the screen here goes blank, and I can't make this happen super reliably, but that's what it does do. It's like the user interface kind of locks up. It still charges just fine though. I seem to get some odd percentages too at first when it guesses how full the battery are. This seems to stabilize after about 10 minutes or so. This was a new phenomenon and I only noticed it after I did the firmware update. Hopefully a future firmware update will fix these minor issues. I'll insert some pictures of the box here so you get a better idea what it looks like. It's nicely constructed with foam on the bottom and top lids, and the charger itself is housed in a nice plastic tray with the Europower adapter underneath. One of the neat things is this included a small tempered glass screen like you get on some smartphones. It's like a plastic. I like this idea and wish more devices came with built-in screen protectors, and I do plan to install this once I am done with my review, but I left it off just to reduce glare. It came with some stickers here, which is kind of cool. You can stick on the sides of the charger or elsewhere. And then here's the manual. This print is really small here, but it's a nice color manual, gives all the specs, and explains what each mode does. So this charger has pros and cons. For me, the pros are, it's got a ton of advanced features with options that are pretty easy to get to on the IPS display with the side touch interface. It's fast and has a maximum of 25 watts charging power with 10 watts discharging power. The firmware is easily to upgrade on a PC, but there's no Mac versions or Linux versions that I can find. It's a well-built plastic construction that is fire retardant, which is always nice to see in a charger. It's got a super obvious reverse polarity alarm and comes with a screen protector, which is a nice touch. I've already scratched my screen here slightly. The cons are, it's really limited to what cells it can charge by its design. No protected cells work, as the design doesn't allow for anything longer than the standard battery length. In the case of an 18650 battery, it's at 650 millimeter length. This also holds true for protected 14500s, 10440s, and any other size. It also doesn't fit your 18350s, your 16340s, and other cells that are popular in the flashlight community. The small fan is loud and it seems to come on based on the power level you choose and not the ambient temperature or the temperature of the cell itself. It's shipped with a European power adapter, which requires a plug adapter to work in other countries like the USA. Luckily, it is included. And there's no manual listed online yet. My conclusion is this is an advanced charger that has just about every option one would want. But it's hard for me to recommend this to the flashlight community as someone's only charger to do it all because of its inability to accept protected cells, especially 18650s. Protected batteries are popular in flashlights because they give an extra layer of security and safety. However, for some reason, ISDT chose a design that was less flexible on the battery length, which really compromises its ability to charge cells, in my opinion. It has a few quirky issues too, mainly with the UI, and I think these should be fixable in future firmware updates. Hopefully ISDT is swift in bringing those. There are good things about this charger, despite all that though. It's easy to use with a relatively large, easy to read color display. It's my only charger with a color display. The UI is easy to navigate. It has a wide variety of modes to handle your basic and advanced battery needs, like charging, discharging, storage, and activation. And you really know what's going on. It gives you a lot of information, which I really like. I like that with more batteries you put in, it doesn't need to slow down the others like my X-Star DC4 does, and some of the Nikkor chargers out there. It has the ability to charge fast or slow, whichever you want. The charger gives you a lot of data, and if you're a person like I am, I love data. For charging AA nickel metal hydride batteries, this is a really nice charger. It has the ability to cycle, charge, discharge, and analyze cells at pretty quick rates. It can fit 4 AA's at one time, but only 2 AAA's at once, which is limiting. For me, this is my new AA and AAA charger. I'll use it with 14500 flat and flat top 18650s that fit. I'll especially use it to do the storage cycle on the batteries that fit. It won't completely replace my X-Star VC4 as it doesn't fit all the batteries I have. But it will supplement it and give me some more charging capability or charging fast when I need it. My hope for the short term is that ISDT continues to bring out more firmware fixes for the software bugs that I've noticed. It'd be awesome if they had an email list you could join to be noticed of new firmware too. In the long term, I hope that ISDT revises their design for the C4 and comes out with a model that can charge a wide selection of cells, including protected batteries. And popular shorter batteries such as the 18350 and 16340. It'd also be nice to see future models be able to charge 4 18650s or 2 2650s at one time. Since this model would most likely be larger physically, I'd like to see a larger, lower speed fan that'd make it quieter as well. If you want to pick up the ISDT C4, I'll have a link in the description below to where you can find it on Banggood. Thanks for watching my video, and I appreciate if you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, as it helps me continue to make videos like this. My goal is to reach 10,000 subscribers before the end of July 2018, so make sure you're subscribed and help me get there today.